I wanted to talk today about the many changes I have planned for the channel going forwards. This next month already, you should see a lot more content, and in the months subsequent, I hope to continue ramping that up. Hopefully, nothing will rock the boat too much in the short term, but I am totally hoping over 2020 to alter what it is I'm doing on this channel. Now, this video is very long and very boring if all you want are the key facts. So let me give them to you now, and unless you're very invested in me, you can click off. I'm planning to bring a lot of long-form gameplay stuff, like Let's Plays, back to the channel this year. What does that mean? Yes, in a big way, covering more games than just Guild Wars 2. I've changed a lot of how I work. A huge amount of things were produced in January. Like you might have missed it, the Ghost of Ascalon full audiobook is available. That's like 27 videos that you guys will be able to check out and are hopefully going to enable me to do lots of big things. That's the big takeaway, really. And if you dislike a high rate of videos and gameplay videos, which I know some people will, I just want to be blunt about the fact that I'm not changing my mind. And if you feel like there's spam in the coming days, I feel like that's really unfortunate. But as the title says, it may be time to unsubscribe. I'm very serious about that, and I'll justify why I'm serious about that as we go forward. Immediately, I want to say, don't worry, pretty much nothing's changing with Guild Wars 2 stuff if you are so inclined as a viewer. If you're only watching me in as far as you want Guild Wars 2 news videos and to be generally up to date with the game, none of that stuff is going anywhere. I have no plans at all to take things away. By comparison, the channel's going to look like I'm doing less Guild Wars 2 than other things when it's sandwiched between other stuff, but I'm going into 2020 and beyond making the exact same commitment to Guild Wars 2 coverage as I ever have, I promise. For everyone a bit more invested in me and how I managed to accomplish this and what I'm thinking, I figured it'd be quite nice and therapeutic to talk about where I am in life, what's going on at the moment, talk about money a little, which has had significant changes for me over the past year, and keep you all in the loop, as I haven't done that in how long? A very long time. So first, let's have a recap on who exactly I am on YouTube, because my guessing is that many of you listening to my voice right now might not know it at all anymore. I started by covering Guild Wars 1 as a really long Let's Play series with hundreds of videos. I slowly filtered in more podcasty and general discussion stuff about Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 2 lore stuff where I got even more viewership. And then as the sequel was coming out, I really suddenly had a lot of people watching me for generic gameplay Q&A videos, and I went full on into covering Guild Wars 2. I've always considered myself to be covering all things about the game, like mechanics, jumping puzzles, exploration, developer trivia, reviewy stuff, quizzy stuff, let's playing, though my initial Guild Wars 2 one from 2012, I admit I never finished. Whatever, my whole shtick really on this website is to get as much out of a game or product experience as possible. Really look at the whole thing. Over time, I think it's fair to say people really enjoyed me talking about story most, since that was the one place where my understanding had often been very, very far ahead of the average player. And I've kind of been stereotyped as just a lore guy for it for some of you. But as much as I love Guild Wars, and have covered it now 9¼ years on YouTube, first as a hobbyist and now full-time, it's not all I've ever done on YouTube. I have always wanted to share my passion for other things and made other kinds of videos. So just some examples, I did 2 separate series attempting a kind of a Steam deal coverage series. I had someone very recently run through some comments on that. Many of you will remember a few years ago, I had a whole separate channel with co-op commentary and gameplay with Matt over at Visual Woods. There we had all kinds of games, regular podcasts. We had a Guild Wars 2 podcast that eventually segued into other stuff as more and more time went by. I've done multiple Let's Plays on Tomb Raider games, lots of games in that series. I did a massive series on Final Fantasy X and its sequel 10-2, which was even bigger. I did really well-received Grimrock Let's Plays that, honestly, the comments on some of those finales are some of the coolest comments for me to ever go back and read. People are being really nice in those. The devs watched that. Speaking of the devs, I did a Let's Play of a really obscure gem from the Xbox original called Azuric, which has amazing developer commentary all throughout the series, coincidentally by someone who actually works at ArenaNet now. I even have some IRL gifts based on the work that I did on that series. I covered BioShock years ago. I have an Uncharted LP that I abandoned that no one really watched right when Guild Wars 2 came out. I've covered a ton of little indie games like Limbo and The Raven. Not forgetting as well, I do have another channel called Concrete Ducks. It's pretty much dead, but I have done a couple of forays into that have nothing to do with Guild Wars 2. Audiobook stuff. I did philosophical short stories that I was reading out to people. Tried a thing very briefly with random internet excerpts until I found other people were already doing the idea and much better. Not much of it's been recent, but it has been there. Always. So I'm hoping that the decisions I'm about to divulge to you here won't be met with hysteria about how I suddenly hate Guild Wars 2 and I'm leaving Guild Wars 2 and all that waffle. It's not true. I've always done them in tandem. I'd really like to go back to that place, but feeling like I have a community that understands that simple fact. We'll see how it goes. Before I go into what I'm doing this year and the games I've picked and so on, I want to spend a good long time in this video taking a slow, detailed look at the past few years and what I'm doing here. I'm going to be as honest as possible and as thorough as possible, so buckle up. I've been lucky enough to have a small but very awesome community who have watched me over the years, and I can just about afford to rent a place, eat fast food, and do something I really love. I still think it's crazy I have a single person listening to me right now, and I want to be clear that I'm super thankful for it. Anyone should love to be in my position. And I've spent most of my time for years leaning on the incumbent audience around Guild Wars. But I'm kind of on the edge. Just sort of comfortable, maybe. Because when it comes down to it, I'm not spending my 20s working towards a better wage like this, or building particular savings, or educating myself at uni, or getting myself an impressive CV, or getting a mortgage. It's just this. I'm vaguely comfortable making videos about Guild Wars 2 and bobbing along. The game just doesn't, and has rarely ever really, had an audience big enough to be something more than this. I do wonder whether if things never change at all, I would just coast like this, complacent as can be for years on end. Let's go back a little. Recent history, 4 years. I want to look at how the channel has actually grown or moved in those 4 years. What I've done to that end since 2016. We are now at the start of 2020. Understand going into this that for all 4 of these years, the back half of this decade, everything I've said in this video so far about branching out has been on my mind. So what did I do? Well, late 2016 is the year that the Visualwood channel closed down. Now, I would consider Visualwood to have been my last really significant attempt to be more than just Mr. Guild Wars 2, to actually look at other games in a fun and successful way. And, well, we weren't really successful. We made mistakes for sure. We'd put it on a separate channel. We didn't plug it enough ever, really. But this isn't about reflecting on our mistakes. What matters is that in 2016, it ended. I had desperately wanted when that ended in 2016 to take the precise time I was spending on Visualwood stuff and put it into audiobooking and voice acted related videos and stuff like that, which was a fun hobbyist thing for me at the time. I was voice acting for a few mods and doing a few things. I even talked about it on our final podcast, I think. I promised you guys that you'd see something else that wasn't Guild Wars and I'd spend the time. But I broke that promise. I never did it in the end. A lot of you guys never even heard the promise because you never checked out that channel, but it was there. I was still Let's Playing alternate stuff to Guild Wars 2 in 2016. This was actually when I finished my Final Fantasy X-2 Let's Play. It was an older game that obviously got limited viewership because it was older and it was super obscure and stuff, but I was nonetheless excited to cover it and pretty rewarded. That's 2016. 2017 saw the end of non-Guild Wars 2 LPs altogether. The last one I did was Rise of the Tomb Raider. It was a new game this time that I hoped would get good traffic. It was the 4th in a long line of them that I'd already shown on the channel. I hoped I had an audience for them, but nonetheless was very low viewed and was crowded out by Guild Wars 2 viewers who didn't want to see it there in the first place. But yeah, besides New World videos, the World of Warcraft review I just did, or other tiny things, I haven't given you this stuff, mainstays for the channel, for 2.5 years now. The finale for Tomb Raider was June 2nd, 2017, and since then, you haven't seen any real gameplay away from Guild Wars 2 from me at all. 2017 was amazing for Guild Wars 2, I'll note. We had really regular, decent patches from Living World Season 3, which rolled super smoothly into a whole expansion. This was Path of Fire, and then after Path of Fire, instantly into Season 4. It was an especially heavy year for Guild Wars 2 videos that I was thrilled to make. 2017 for Guild Wars 2 was great. I was privileged to fly out and preview the game. I hosted the official post-show, just like I had with Heart of Thorns previously. It was amazing and brilliant. But somehow all that stuff stymied any time I should have been spending on non-Guild Wars 2 stuff. It goes without saying that every year had newsy videos like 2017 was full of. I've always done trailer coverage, patch note reviews, previews, and the such. Those kinds of Guild Wars 2 videos are my bread and butter. They are a staple that has been there probably since 2013 and Living World Season 1 kicked up. They're always good viewership, but I have to say at the head, I'm never proud of those videos. They never mean anything in the long run. Who's rewatching my Heart of Thorns announcement video right now? No one. Who's watching my Icebrood Saga announcement coverage right now? That's way newer. Still, no one. Who's watching my coverage of when the Lunar New Year came out right here in 2020? No one. They're videos that come out, serve a purpose right at the start, and then that's about it after a week or two. There's no growth there. It's not anything but a short flare up and then a die down. They're videos I'm happy to make in the moment, and clearly the vast majority of you enjoy watching in the moment, but they're not a part of anything bigger or better. They don't really reach new people, and overall, I would say I feel quite empty about them. People tend to judge the idea of Let's Play videos, and indeed, a lot of people can be very lazy about Let's Playing. I hope I'm not considered the same. But I have to say, I really value that format, because at least then you get a complete package that people can and do go back to and enjoy forevermore. I often check my YouTube comments and I'll be inundated with stuff that's going on in the here and now and the recent uploads, but constantly punctuated are people going back through stuff I played in 2014, 13, 12, leaving their comments and watching me play games as though it happened yesterday. They have actual life to them, and those are some of the comments and things that I cherish most. They mean something to me, and I'd rather make videos like that go the distance. So back to 2017, it was undoubtedly a brilliant year for Guild Wars 2 and one and done videos, but not really growth. 2018 was a very, very poor year all over. I neither kicked up anything new outside of Guild Wars 2, didn't really have a good excuse for it either, nor did Guild Wars 2 offer much that was very good, unlike in 2017. 2018 had a few sporadic Season 4 episodes, some other patches like Roller Beetle Racing that people weren't that interested in, and less endgame stuff. My own personal enthusiasms were and still very high for the game, but it was very clear that releases were coming less frequently, and they couldn't compete with the incredible stuff that had come the year before, or even 2016, the years of Heart of Thorns and so on. In the meantime, what I had foolishly dedicated all my main efforts to in 2018 was Guild Wars 2, and in particular within Guild Wars 2, one series, that was the Guild Wars 2 Let's Play. My initial idea was that a Guild Wars 2 Let's Play would be something vaguely easy to make, as it is a Let's Play, but would allow me to focus on other stuff at the same time, therefore building maybe a reasonable viewership in another one of my passions. I made a post on my subreddit as well as a video explaining everything about that Guild Wars 2 Let's Play before it started. There were a lot of other incentives for why I did it beyond just the idea of branching out, but that crucial bit of having enough free time to do other games never happened for me. Looking back, and I know this will sound like a cop-out excuse, but I ended up putting in too much effort into that LP. The episodes weren't easy to make at all. They were filled with audio editing. The way that Guild Wars 2 handles voice, just suddenly characters shouting in and then suddenly stop, is a nightmare if you want to do a good job with your commentary without overlapping and display everything. I added vistas, lore sections from blog posts and novels, ambient dialogue that would take hours to capture, and so much more. I even had a viewer comment section in it for a bit, and it was so much longer than I expected. Again, I'm ultra proud of that series and what it became, and all those who were in chat when we premiered the finale and the regular watchers. I was obsessed with making it as perfect as possible, and in many ways I'm happy to have done that, to make it so worth watching. Those things I don't regret. But nonetheless, the viewership was just not worth a project of that scale. It was 2012 Guild Wars 2. I had hoped that because it was still Guild Wars 2, people would be interested in watching it from me. But the game needed a lot of help to not look totally terrible. And the people spoke. They didn't click. They had moved on from caring much about the personal story and so on. The first few episodes of that Let's Play were very highly watched and really encouraged me to keep going. They were well recommended. And then, as many LPs do, but this one in particular, it shrunk dramatically to a level far beneath what I was hoping, despite the fact that my efforts in it continued to go up and up and up. Not only did that specific series suffer poor viewership, I think the video quantities, or spam as people were calling it at the time, caused a large amount of people to just decide not to watch that closely anymore. 2018, I actually lost subs for large chunks of the year. Not much, I was pretty much stagnant, down a little bit. I lost, more importantly, masses of Patreon support. And I've been a rocky, scary place ever since picking that series up and going from there. I'm not working on a wage increase like I suggested at the start of the video and you'd expect any 20-something to be doing. I'm working on stemming the loss of money. Since the LP, I've been working to not have a 30-40% earnings cut. For a long time, I've probably foolishly tried to ignore that, not ask and beg for Patreon support too much, because I could afford to from savings when Path of Fire came out. But as you all know, ArenaNet aren't doing any big expansions or announcements anymore. So by this point, in 2020, a lot of my savings have dried up. The whole asking for an expansion from Guild Wars 2 just because of my own personal finances feels really scummy to me, and I'm scared to talk about this. In general, I would say the hive mind is on my side, and all want an expansion as well. But I'd really rather keep my enthusiasm for expansions to be purely about the player base and the game, rather than my pocket. But as much as I can try to do that, I can't deny that I had a big expectation as someone covering Guild Wars 2 that money wouldn't be so bad and the devs would keep making X-Packs. My discussion and criticism of Icebrood Saga, I have tried my best to keep purely about the content within it, and I would say I've been more of an advocate and defender of the saga than the average player. But the truth is, realistically speaking, no expansions, no opportunities to offer affiliate links like you guys so wonderfully utilized when Path of Fire and Heart of Thorns came out, means, with the combined loss of the Patreon support, I'm running out of money. Here, in the year 2020, I have to do something. Yeah, 2018 wasn't a good year. Some other things happened too, I'll note. I started the Ghost of Ascalon audiobook after getting permission and working so hard for it and getting help from NCSoft with that, but got the lowest initial viewership on any video series since before Guild Wars 2 came out, and with a prospective 25 video series, I quickly backtracked on it. The views on those videos look decent enough now, but it's been a long time. Maybe I made a mistake, but that was a very, very poor series when it first came out. I spent a lot of time in 2018 casting automated tournaments from PvP, teaching people about PvP, trying to share my passion for it to people. But again, I lost viewers rapidly at this point, so stopped. I did, during this year, host a 3,000 viewer live tournament with Roy, just us in the community, which was great. I did then start producing a daily PvP commentary series that went up on my second channel. I was too nervous to upload it on the main stage. And that series had some following, I do appreciate, and it was a part of the game I was really passionate about at the time, but it was still very, very minor. Even though I should have spent the time on other stuff, I spent a huge amount of 2018 just making videos like that. I figured at the time that if I saw viewership increase on my second channel, I would know it was a good concept and I could bring it to the main channel instead. But that viewership never increased. There were a couple of people interested in it and it stayed about level. So that never happened. So that was 2018. Not a good year. And that brings us to last year and my most recent stuff, 2019, which was worse. So let's see, what did I do? Well, in the early months of 2019, I finished the Let's Play, which was good. I had hoped to have it done before then, but that was all a lot of fun, and I've talked a bit about the finale already. I tried a new PvP coaching series in 2019, again on the second channel. Again, people enjoyed, but again had about the same views, so eventually I stopped. Following the conclusion of the LP, I produced a pretty tight set of dungeon explorable videos that I'm just as proud of as the Let's Play, put just as much work into, and on a per video basis did have slightly higher viewership. No one seems to really go back to those or remember that they're there, but that was something pretty cool I did in 2019. Nonetheless, they're videos that you put a ton of work into and will only just about hit on par with a random news video. I made a Tribulation mode playthrough, full for people on Patreon. It's exclusive a year, and then it's coming to the main channel in April, so that was something I did. Obviously, very few people saw that because it's only on that website. For now, it will be up in April. I made a lore video about Season 1 that I put a good amount of work into, properly recapping and scripting and sorting out Season 1, so anyone who wants to catch up with that story can just watch it. It's very much in the same vein as many of my old lore videos, and it was a lot of fun. Again, much lower viewership than the older videos used to get, probably because people feel that Season 1 isn't interesting anymore. I finished the series covering the Heart of Thorns Elite Specializations that should have been done years ago as well. I made one podcast about gold making with the game's richest player. That video's got well over 100,000 views. Talking about gold in Guild Wars 2 is an easy way to get viewership, but I'm not passionate about whatsoever. So overall, I'm happy to have made it. Maybe I'll do another one, but it's not the kind of thing I'll dedicate to. I produced a series of open world build guides that people loved and were very well viewed, which has been great, and I do like the idea of making some more of those. I made a cool World of Warcraft versus Guild Wars 1 video that people equally liked, ended up on R Gaming, spurred a lot of discussion, and was very well viewed as well, so that's been very fun. And, well, for the last 2/3 of the year, all of 2019, I was streaming daily. I probably streamed 200 to 250 days last year, which is a lot more than I have before. They were short streams, but it's true that if you wanted to watch me regularly with Guild Wars 2 in 2019, you had your eye on my Twitch account or my second channel, you had hundreds of hours to watch from me from 2019. But that doesn't really count for much. Twitch is a website where a very, very small fraction of you guys actually come over to watch me. My content's very different over there, and I really consider YouTube my home. So even though there are some considerable hours with this Twitch streaming thing, it didn't really mean anything for growing. And I'll come back to that in a second. But that's it. Like, that's the whole year, really. I did just list out pretty much everything for all of 2019. To me, honestly, looking at that, I would say that 2019 was a really lazy, sad year from me. The Icebrood Saga presentation didn't require much and really hasn't captured people's enthusiasm. The amount of news we get or the quality and the kind of things that happen in the game is not capturing people. It has all the problems of 2018, except now there's even less stuff. You can scroll back, go to my channel page right now, scroll back past my most recent 20, 30 videos, and you'll see that they were made months ago. It's nowhere near the amount I could have been doing, had been doing, or want to be doing, really. And again, for both of these years, it's all just Guild Wars 2. None of it pushes New Horizons at all. Most importantly, 2019 didn't reverse the downward trends from 2018 remotely. Patreon is even lower now. And it's not just becoming a question of no more affiliate links, it's that literally my baseline income is struggling. Just editing in at the end of the video here, I had a look over at Patreon a second ago. Over just January alone, this January 2020, I've lost $230 a month, with people in the audience choosing to no longer pledge. That's probably because there's a new decade and they, like me, are assessing what's important to them. And I and this channel are not important to them anymore. There was one person in the whole world who joined up. The rest was people leaving. $200 is a massive amount of money to me. And so, honestly, I'm really scared about going forward. I hope the risks I take this month and this year actually pay off. I think I'll have to do another dedicated Patreon video, bring back the super Q&As. There'll be information on that soon because I have to turn this around. Going back to the idea that things are on a downward trend, take those streams. Followership for them has always been minuscule compared to my main viewer base here, and I've treated it very much as a side thing for that accordingly. But even this small number of people has been gradually dropping as we run out of interesting things to do. I think over 2018 and 19, I'm less than a third of the viewers I was on that platform before, and how regularly I do it obviously impacts that a bit, and how much I plug and push it impacts that a bit, but that's a big drop. And not just for the regular stuff, like random streams, like the master streams I'm doing, but even when a big patch comes out, especially on recent timescales. Last year, with the Thunderhead patch, I did a blind playthrough that got lots of interest. If I do a blind playthrough, the same thing of a new patch now, way fewer people are interested, such as when I did the exact same thing for episode 1 of Icebreed Saga, twice. Maybe it's all down to me being insufferable over there, I get that. But I will say that this trend is sadly true for the generic newsy YouTube videos too. The only things I could actually rely on to generate meaningful revenue when my other ideas and passions have so frequently not. Less people watch trailers. Less people are interested in game patches or balance and everything new with Guild Wars in general right now. If you look, you'll see that I get about the same views each video as I always do, but that's in large part because there are so few of them spread over the whole year. I haven't given you much choice of what to watch, so what there is being bumped up more than it should or would have. There is very genuine viewership drain. You might blame me, and I'm sure that I can do better, but it's really, really obvious, especially since the ArenaNet layoffs early last year. Some people are starting to tune out of Guild Wars 2. It's 8 years old after all. The most recent expansion is from 2017. Most people, and I don't include myself among them, but most people, I'm sad to say, are more interested in controversies about female game devs getting fired and Twitter spit fights or the price of a mount, and not actually looking to talk about or watch the game itself. Those master streams from last year are all literally exactly that. The experience of Guild Wars 2 in all its facets, all the things you can do, its purest of forms. And that is not a series that has grown over time. I want to be clear again that I personally still really adore the game and will continue to be addicted to it and playing it and covering it. But it's also very, very clear to me that I need to get back to looking at other things. What if ArenaNet's console game is awful? What if they do burn all their bridges? I don't really believe they will. But isn't it kind of a dumb risk for me to be sitting here idly taking, especially having noticed all that stuff I've just mentioned? It always was a dumb risk to tie everything to just their successes, and if they go through bad times, I do too, through no fault of my own. And I've always known that. So overall, both 2018 and 2019 were worrying, foolish years that have zapped past me in the blink of the eye, and where I haven't done enough. 2017 and 16 were both better in different ways, but generally, I would say I haven't been ambitious enough. Maybe people will become really interested in Guild Wars 2 again, and very soon. Perhaps this console game is called Guild Wars 3, and that spurs a lot of enthusiasm back towards the MMO. Who knows? But if I'm being very serious with myself, and very adult with myself, I don't think it's smart to sit here idly hoping that that will happen when I have no control over it. So now 2020 is here. This upcoming Halloween, it will be 10 years too since I first joined this website and started uploading regularly on it as a hobbyist. When I hit that time this coming Halloween, what will I have to show for 10 full years on this platform? And what about the next 10 years? Am I going to be sitting here grinding World vs. World and begging those few remaining viewers and players for Patreon support in 2030? Well, no. Look, I'm sure I want to be on YouTube. I want to make fun, enjoyable, interesting, informative stuff for you guys for as long as I can. But I want to do it in a positive, sustainable way where it actually feels like I'm going somewhere. So one final bit of background and I'll tell you what's happening going forwards. You might have noticed that a lot of YouTubers make a video like this sometime at the end of December, right near New Year, and they talk about all their plans. I would usually just rather make the videos themselves and try not to blather on about myself too much. But even in this instance, I've waited until the end of January. This is for a very specific reason. I've spent so much time these past years thinking about, working on, and then abandoning or failing with ideas for other videos, other games, other projects that never see the light of day, then you guys would believe. I'm at a point where I have very little confidence in whether my work will come to fruition. So the worst thing I could do is tell you all a bunch of stuff in a video like this, and then it doesn't happen. Most importantly, I hate starting things and then stopping them halfway. Like when I picked Final Fantasy X-2 back up after a whole year of not making the videos, despite the fact it was obviously getting less viewership than any random Guild Wars 2 video I could have done. I did it anyway. It still annoys me that I never finished Uncharted, for example, or made a video about the Deepstone lore yet, or covered the newest Raid Wings in the same format I did the original 5. I don't like letting things drop, even if it's probably a good idea. So if I'm going to sit here now and tell you a bunch of stuff that I'm doing, I'd best really believe it will happen and that you can be confident in what I'm saying, not just lies and wishes and bullshit. I've waited until the end of January because I wanted to spend the entirety of January doing my new plans enjoyably and successfully to make sure I was happy with them and I could do it. Only once I'd actually had a full month under my belt did I have the confidence to make this video, and we'll soon start uploading. That's right, I've already made 20 to 30 videos this month alone. I can't wait for you to watch them, and they're ready to go. Next month will hopefully be exactly the same. Also, hopefully, you never noticed any change on the surface as January went along. You still had the coverage of the Lunar New Year, talk about the console game, every single stream still happened, whatever else came up, as will always continue to be the case. It's not hard to match the laziness of 2019 after all. So, how was January different for me? Well, many years ago, I realized that when you're self-employed and you don't have structure, that it's extremely easy to accidentally let the days slip by without being productive. I've come to believe that schedules and calendars are pretty much essential for anyone in a position like me. I've used them for years, and without one, I know I would get very little done. In the past, and notably over these 4 most recent years, I've tried to schedule my time by listing all the things I want to accomplish in any particular day. So, wake up now, make a news video about now, there's space here for a potential collaboration with Boots now, time to stream now, time to make a Concrete Ducks video at the end of the day, and voila! The day should be easy, just follow the schedule and it will be a successful working day where you get everything you want done. It's sort of worked to get the main and easy stuff done, like the Guild Wars 2 news videos that I know you guys will watch and come to me easily. But I've had to realize that when it comes to other stuff, this has not been working. Discipline or no, I am an obsessive person. I really like to sink into a thing, to get to grips with it, love it, devour it, make videos about it and sharing what's so great about it, and then during that time, I'm probably not very interested in much else. And the reverse is true too. If I'm not in love with a thing and engaging with it lots, my enthusiasm can bottom out real quick. Maybe you feel the same, being a very all or nothing person. I always thought I could just bat that away and fight through it. But it presents a very real issue for my YouTube work. See, if I don't feel interested, genuinely interested in some subject material, I lose confidence in the production I'm working on completely. Like how I dropped the second half of the World of Warcraft review once I'd stopped playing the game for like 2 weeks. It was only months later that I hastily cobbled it together to try and get something out for you guys. If I'm not super into WoW, I'm not into it enough to make the review for you. Why would someone else watch this thing that I'm not in love with? How is this entertaining to watch when not even I'm super entertained and I'm the one delivering it? My number one rule has always been to make videos I can imagine myself watching. So when it comes to something the passion's not there for, am I to be fake and over the top and hollow so anyone respectable and with half a brain out there can see right through me and the community I have left are people that I don't respect? No, I really rather not make a thing at all. And equally, it's no wonder why I'd make countless PvP videos on a second channel that no one's really even watching, but I continue to do them because PvP is what I'm interested in and PvP is what I want to talk about for now. That's how it's always been. So for the past few years, when I've been trying to follow these schedules that are divided into 4 or 5 neat different but totally separate objectives every day, It should have been obvious why I was never getting things meaningfully done and throwing half-baked stuff away for years now. It's because I was never giving myself time to actually obsess over stuff. I just forced things on my plate that I knew I would probably like, but only get to try it for a little bit, then sorry, time's up. Just have more discipline. Come back next week. It's no wonder I'm bouncing back to Guild Wars 2 all the time, a game where I can make decent videos that I know people will watch, I'm not insecure about the success of them, it's something I genuinely love and is so easy to fall back into when the world is pushing me to it. Getting bored of PvE? Well, now I'm addicted to PvP. Oh, now I'm doing daily fractals. Now I'm doing some raid progression. Guess what? The devs are doing a preview of another new exciting patch. Some new feature is coming out, and I want to talk about that instead. A lot of the time, I'll be in the middle of a project or an idea. The devs will announce some new patch, and everything collapses because I make the mistake of looking at the Guild Wars thing, and now all my video making productivity and excitement goes into this game again. So a few months ago, I decided to change tack. I decided to acknowledge what I was and try to work around that, with that. And therefore, my solution has been, honestly, a really simple one. I've used it for January and I intend to going forward. There are 4 big main things that I really want to be doing on YouTube for the next while, hoping they do well. Just 4. Now, to be clear, you won't see them all just yet, but that's it. They're all very separate, they're all very different things, but I hope between them that I'll be stable in the short term and actually grow again on YouTube, like I did in 2012 in the long term. There are also about 4 weeks in a month, so you see where this is going. My schedule now looks totally different. I wrote it in December. I just go crazy on a certain thing all week. I play and learn and make as much as I can, and then when the week ends, I stop and invest myself in a totally different thing. It might take a day or 2 to really get the fire going, but then that's what I'm all about, and I want to make videos all about that, and I feel like I'm making great content the whole time. It indulges who I am. I'm confident and excited and happy and doing things that I've been floundering on for way too long, while the schedule makes sure over the whole month there's still a good balance. So, as a point of comparison, instead of uploading maybe 1 or 2 videos a week, as was pretty much the case last year, through just this January, I've been making on average 10 to 12 videos every 7 days. So key point 1, there's a lot of stuff coming. WoodenPotatoes, the channel, is going to change. This doesn't mean you're going to see all my uploads suddenly in blocks each week. I'll mix up the actual publishing of them, so there's always a variety coming out. I'm not going to just dump you with a ton of one thing and then dump you with a ton of other thing. It will be mixed on your end, and normal, rational people who can have lots of different enthusiasms will be fine, but I'm making them in these kinds of batches. There are a couple of exceptions to this. I've still left space every day at the end of every day to do my regular Guild Wars 2 stream, which, as I said, you saw through January. No matter what other thing I'm doing throughout the month, I'm ending with a Guild Wars 2 stream. And I've also left some time each day, particularly on Tuesdays, to talk about sudden patches or revelations with Guild Wars 2 that would be very time sensitive if I need to get them out quick. Those are the kind of videos, again, you saw me release over this month already. There's really been no downside so far, and while I still feel a tinge of lacking confidence for the many months following, maybe burnout or something like that, I am firm enough now to announce this to you. This video will look really pathetic and sad if by the end of the year this has all fallen apart, but that's a risk that I have to take at this point. The only real downside to this new method is that with me making things in bulk like this, it might take some time for me to read your feedback in comments for subsequent videos. I'm really sorry about that, but I will always be reading the comments, and hopefully, as you guys know, that's one of my favorite things about this website. So that leads us to the big question of what did I dedicate each week to? So number 1, there is a week I have dedicated purely to Guild Wars 2 non-newsy videos. So I'm not just talking about patch reviews, I'm not just talking about basic stuff, balance previews, things like that. I'm talking about like real videos that I think most of you are really entertained by and interested in watching. So during that week, it's anything Guild Wars related. It might be lore, it might be covering more builds like the build series I did, it might be covering add-ons or third-party tools, it might be a new player guide for a new year or decade as it now is, it might be a request of the devs, a gold making video, something with boots, whatever I'm interested in. I'm spending this week every month trying to make videos I hope people will like lots, usually scripted, usually more short form or whatever, so that it feels like there's that high quality normal expectation still being satisfied as we go forward. I'm pretty convinced that everything else I'm going to be doing will be getting way less interest than these videos, even though there's going to be so much more of that other stuff. So it's really important these ones are good. This week won't produce so many videos as those other ideas, but they'll be good ones, and of the variety you're probably currently subscribed for. For this particular month, I'm not sure it went as well as I wanted. There was the biggest balance patch the game has ever seen, after all, plus a substantive Icebrood Saga episode, and these did take a good amount of my time. That's why over the past week or so, and next week, you're going to see a lot of Guild Wars stuff, but it is still kind of news heavy. I also made a fairly casual analysis of what I consider Guild Wars 2's biggest problems to be, which was meant to come out later in February, but I was too excited and posted it in January instead, which I felt like didn't have enough. So there will be a lot of stuff, in particular the Ghosts of Ascalon, which has something like 20 videos for you all to see. Took a lot longer to make than I was expecting, but is really good. And obviously all these things won't be on the table with the next Guild Wars week. Another week I'm dedicating to a Guild Wars 2 Season 2 Let's Play and beyond. I'm well aware that some of you may be totally uninterested in the continuation of my Guild Wars 2 Let's Play. I did just talk about what a bad idea the series turned out to be in 2018. But that said, I'm not dropping this series, it's going the distance. Back when I started the personal story Let's Play, I had a lot more reasons for doing it than just trying to have something Guild Wars 2 and easy for freeing up time on branching out. And all of those other initial reasons still matter to me. They still count. I won't reiterate them here, you can check out that video at the time or the Reddit thread. I still care about the series. We've covered core, the dungeons, Season 1, and now we're on to Season 2 and beyond. In January, I made roughly 12 40-minute episodes on this, and in February, I'll do another batch again. I won't spoil how far I've got into the game already, or which characters are returning, or anything like that. You'll just have to see. I will note that for the Season 2 continuation of the Let's Play and the return of all of these characters, I have trimmed it down in terms of production a considerable amount. No more vistas or ambient dialogue at the start or ending of the episodes. Sorry. But I'm afraid if I did that, we wouldn't get anywhere fast. I could spend the week on it, but you'd only get a couple of episodes out. Like I say, I don't want to redo 2018 100%. It's a lighter, easier setup now, and because there isn't a ridiculous matrix of personal story steps to learn on the way, for those who remember the behind the scenes video I made, you'll know what I'm talking about. I'm really just sitting down and having fun and getting a lot of distance with the game. I'm obviously making this compromise so that I don't have another 2018 as I described earlier. When the day comes, and believe me, it's not such a long way off, that we've caught up to Icebrood Saga as planned, I'll see what I'm doing with this week based on how everything's going. Maybe I can fill this new free week with more Guild Wars 2 stuff, if I've pissed everyone off with a bunch of spam from other things. But I'd really rather think that it's going to be something also entirely different to Guild Wars 2. Maybe this week would become about other MMOs. You guys liked the World of Warcraft video a lot. So that's a couple of the weeks, and I'd like to say that each one is managing to get out more content for the full month than I was doing at all before, which is brilliant. So let's talk now about week number 3, which is definitely the most exciting one for me. It's an Elder Scrolls project. I've mentioned the Elder Scrolls many times over the years. In fact, it's exactly this game series that I wanted to start covering in tandem with Guild Wars 2 back in 2018. I was playing a ton of Arena in secret back then, trawling the wikis, scavenging for interesting scraps of information, and doing playthroughs to figure out how best to show it off. But again and again, I never found the confidence to start posting. Some of you more long-term listeners might know a very old fact about me. When I started YouTube in 2010, I had 3 very specific big gaming franchises in mind, and I didn't know which one was more exciting or had a better future. Guild Wars was one thing I might have wanted to make videos about, and Elder Scrolls was another. I picked Guild Wars, believing that the sequel would be a smash success that would see me rise through YouTube prominence just like so many World of Warcraft YouTubers experienced with Cataclysm or something. Not to mention that I felt like I'd wasted so much time in Guild Wars already, typing /age into the client and seeing it rise into the early thousands. I wanted something meaningful to speak for that experience. And Guild Wars was still kind of obscure at the time. That was a pro to me. I hated the idea, and still do to this very day, of making videos that someone else already got to, except maybe mine were just a little worse or a little better. What's the point? Who wants to be one man in a crowd? I felt I had to do something different to all those people. I wanted to innovate and stand alone in this untapped franchise that I knew was actually brilliant and had a lot to give. Guild Wars was in the calm before the storm with its sequel on the horizon. I wanted to catch lightning in a bottle. And Elder Scrolls seemed well-charted waters already. And so, I picked Guild Wars in 2010. The funny thing is, I didn't pick Guild Wars because I was a bigger fan of it. Not really, even if I had amassed a good chunk of hours by that point. I had played Morrowind and even Oblivion earlier than Guild Wars. I had more nostalgia for those games, and playing them with my father and my brother. My first PC modding experience was Morrowind. Later in Oblivion, it became an obsession. I never loved Tyria as much as I loved Tamriel. I was never more immersed or awestruck in Guild Wars than when I would be cresting a hill in an Elder Scrolls game and seeing the sharp sun hit my face and blind me. And maybe even, I knew more about Tamriel too. I've talked often about my early Guild Wars experiences, and they're no secret. I would skip quest texts, spend my time in arenas and PvP as much as possible, and quit for weeks or even months at a time if I struggled, like when I first hit the Gate of Madness mission in Nightfall. When I came to Let's Playing Guild Wars, that's when I really started to learn. Preparation for that series. When I would wiki every outpost, every NPC, every boss, learn as much trivia as possible, truly understand the story. It was all to present it to you in YouTube videos, because no one else had, and I thought I could do it well. Literally no one had on YouTube at that point. They were all casual co-op LPs, minimal commentary LPs, or pure for fun and laugh LPs. By the time most of you found me as a Guild Wars 2 coverer, the assumption was that I'd always been a diehard, but I missed the proper launch of all the major campaigns in Guild Wars 1, really. My transformation from idle casual to enthusiast is largely documented right there on YouTube. You can see it happen. Well, there and on the lost threads of the Guild Wars 2 Guru forums that I haunted madly before the release of the sequel. And I found the more I learned of Tyria, the more I loved it, and the more videos I wanted to make, and the more Tamriel fell away into nothing. Now it's 2020, and I've just spent this entire video explaining to you the current state of the channel and my desire to forge new paths. 10 years later, and I'm wondering, what if this time, at the crossroads, what if I start walking the left path as well as the middle one? This time, it's Bethesda's Elder Scrolls 6 that we know is coming, and will probably be huge, as long as they don't mess it up, and no news or certainty at all from ArenaNet. Sure, I've been having real trouble figuring out how to give you something that hasn't been done to death in that franchise, something that's good and new and worth watching, how to not just be another numpty in a crowd of Elder Scrolls nerds trying to make it on YouTube. I really hate the thought of being that, just like why I was put off a decade earlier. The internet's even more crowded now. I've always struggled with finding that cross-section between my own genuine, real passions and desires and something that has mass appeal. This is one of them, and I think I have something okay, and it will be very familiar to what I've done with Guild Wars, except with all the hindsight and expertise I've gained over the years being executed from the very start. What you saw happen to me as I got invested in Tyria, I hope to happen with Tamriel. The full project I'm going to describe in its own video coming up very soon that doesn't waffle about all this irrelevant nonsense to do with me, but suffice it to say it will be a long-form gameplay series. It's going to have a lot of videos, and a lot of them will be long. There'll be many parts, and I really, really, really hope you guys give it a chance. The Elder Scrolls is just one thing, but ultimately there are a few other series I know many of you have been looking for many months, even years now. Druidstone, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Final Fantasy XII, not to mention so many other franchises I'd love to show that you've never seen an inkling of from me so far, like the music I use in my videos, or I've talked about some RTSs from the late 90s. They're all still on my mind, and for the first time in forever, I really feel confident that I could actually get them to you. In theory, I could spend the 4th week of the month right now on that stuff, and people would see a crazy amount of videos on random games suddenly going up. But for now, I'm afraid there'll be more waiting. That's going to be too much culture shock, and I'm using that week for something else. My goal isn't just to turn WoodenPotatoes into a Let's Play hub, I want to be clear, even if I am very proud of my own form of playthroughs. We're only just getting started, but long term what I'd like to do most is to cover enough games, maybe starting with playthroughs, that I really care about. Going forwards, I could handily produce more short form, scripted, edited, or informational stuff, just like you see me making on Guild Wars 2, but on a range of stuff that we're all equally as a community passionate about. And barring something crazy from ArenaNet, I foresee Guild Wars 2 itself to always be a part of that. I want your enthusiasm for these things to be as sincere as mine, and I feel that opening the gates with a general playthrough series is an excellent means of introduction. It worked for Guild Wars. It's going to be largely gameplay videos for now, and many of them. When my plans next will change, I'm unsure. I at least know that January's been brilliant. I want to do the same for February and March at least. After that, if it feels important and right to swap one week for another idea, I'll happily do it, but that won't change how much is being released. So that brings me to the last thing, and it's really one of the main points of this video today. I wanted to explain everything so we'd have a bit of unity and understanding with what's going on. While I'm still aiming for just about one video a day, occasionally perhaps 2, that's a lot more than we're currently under, and my channel is about to move from a state of fairly infrequent videos aimed at fair weather viewers that get decent yet dwindling views, to masses of videos that will likely get very few, aimed at dedicated viewers. Most people are going to look at their subscription feed and see a bunch of gameplay videos from Guild Wars 2 seasons they're uninterested in, and Elder Scrolls stuff from a person they don't consider to really know the franchise or whatever comes after it. They will consider Let's Plays to be low rate, lazily made, and beneath their time, no matter how hard I work on them. They'll pester me about it and generally try to encourage me to have more 2018s and more 2019s. I really don't want you guys to do that. If Guild Wars 2 has taught me anything, it's how quickly a community can split into Discord and become ununified, unhappy, because people's expectations are all over the place. I don't want a community like that. Having explained my current situation in life to exacting detail in this video, let me be blunt. I'm not changing my mind. If the new ideas for 2020 don't seem fun to you, I totally understand it, and please just unsubscribe. I'm not interested in spending my next 10 years running the kind of YouTube channel that this has become, and a new decade is a good time as any for me to take the risk. I would further implore people to see whether the amount of Guild Wars 2 content has actually gone down, despite what they may instinctively think. So far, I feel far more productive than I have in months, and I suspect it will go up. Guild Wars 2 is still half of all my time, but it indeed will be crowded by other things, as the channel has been like many times in the past. And to those who stick about, 2 things. First, if you see others in the comments who feel this kind of annoyance, show them this video so that they know I'm happy for them to leave. Secondly, and finally for the video, if you are enjoying the new stuff when it comes out, I do seek to impress. And if you want to help me in this new crowded space, please just use the comments as much as possible. It brings me no greater joy than to see new messages on my passion project. And more importantly, just tell someone about me. Recommend me, link me, whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't particularly need in-game Guild Wars 2 gifts. What I need is a community and to try and turn around the state that Patreon's got in and not get kicked off the website after too long's passed. I just need to reach new people to have an active community and be treated seriously in some new arenas. And hopefully, I don't do a bad job. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoy the videos coming tomorrow. We're starting easy and simply adding the Elder Scrolls stuff. That's kind of a TLDR of the whole video here. Here's to a new decade. As always, thanks for watching.